My name is Leela Harper, and the morning my life changed forever started with a joke about coffee creamer. Henry, my husband of 42 years, was sitting at the kitchen table, teasing me for buying the powdered kind again. "If I drop dead from this powdered nonsense," he said, tapping his spoon against his favorite mug, "you'll finally know what real guilt feels like." His laugh, warm and familiar, masked the storm I didn't yet know was coming, and then he stopped. His hand twitched, the spoon slipped, and his eyes froze wide, like he'd just forgotten how to breathe. At first, I thought he was pulling another one of his dramatic jokes, but the air grew thick, as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for the truth to land. He had a dark sense of humor, but when I called his name, and he didn't answer when his head slumped and his body went limp before I could even reach for my phone, I knew. I knew in my bones this wasn't a joke. This was the end. I screamed. I dropped the butter knife I'd been using. My knees hit the tile as I rushed to him, trying to find a pulse, trying to shake him awake. My heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat screaming he couldn't leave me like this. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the numbers on my phone. The 911 operator was calm, guiding me through chest compressions, but I could already feel he was gone. The paramedics came. They said words like massive, unredeemable, and DNR. But I didn't need them to explain. I saw it in their eyes. I heard it in the silence when they stopped trying. The apartment turned heavy. Too loud, too quiet, still and shattered all at once. The walls seemed to close in, whispering memories of our life now reduced to this unbearable void. I sat on the edge of the couch staring at the floor. Then I picked up the phone and called my only son, Noah. It rang 5 times. When he finally answered, my voice was trembling, but I said the words as clearly as I could. "Noah, your dad? He collapsed. He's gone." There was a pause, and then, as if I had just interrupted a weather report, Noah replied, "Mom, it's Sophia's birthday today. Can we talk next week?" His words were a blade, slicing through the fragile thread of hope I'd clung to. I couldn't speak. I lowered the phone without thinking and hung up. In that moment, I realized something deeper than grief. I hadn't just lost my husband, I had lost my son, too. The day of Henry's funeral felt like stepping into an alternate reality. People moved in slow motion, voices buzzed like static. I stood beside the casket, gripping the sides of the podium as if it were the only thing holding me up. Old friends and distant relatives approached with murmured condolences. "He was such a good man," they said. "We're so sorry." But their words floated past me like smoke. Each platitude stung, a reminder of the absence that screamed louder than their sympathy, because all I could think about was the one person who wasn't there. My son, not in the pews, not standing beside me, not even in the parking lot. The night before, I had called to confirm the funeral time. Sophia, Noah's wife, answered instead. Her voice was bright, too cheerful, like she was hosting a dinner party. "Noah, still thinking about it," she said. "We already booked a weekend getaway and cancellation fees are kind of steep." I remember staring at the phone in disbelief as she kept talking. "It's Sophia's birthday too, and I'm trying to keep things light for my mental health." Her casual dismissal was a slap, turning my grief into a footnote in her perfect plans. I didn't say a word, I just hung up. I wouldn't beg them to attend Henry's funeral, not after everything Henry had given. He had been the one up at 3 a.m. with baby Noah, rocking him through colic cries. He had taught him how to ride a bike, how to budget, how to change a tie. Henry never missed a school play, a birthday, or a graduation. He called Noah every Monday, no matter what. He had even called him the evening before he died. I didn't know that until later. At the funeral, people noticed. Of course they did. The whispers started before the service even began. "Where's Noah? Did he miss his flight? Is Sophia okay?" Even Henry's best friend from college, Jack, leaned over and whispered, "I thought your boy would be front and center today." I just nodded, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Their pitying glances burned, each one a reminder of the son who'd chosen absence over honor. But it wasn't until after the service, when Henry's coworker Daniel approached me by the coffee urn, that I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "I hope I'm not overstepping," Daniel said gently. "But Henry mentioned something strange a month ago. He said he'd been helping Noah out financially. He seemed stressed about it." I blinked. He never said anything to me. Daniel looked surprised. "Really?" He made it sound pretty serious. I thanked him and stepped away, locking myself in the restroom where I sat on the closed toilet seat and stared at the floor. My mind raced, piecing together a betrayal I hadn't dared to imagine. Everything inside me screamed for answers. Henry was gone. Noah was absent. And now there were whispers of secrets I never knew existed. The apartment felt heavier than ever that night. I poured a glass of wine I didn't really want and sat in Henry's empty armchair, staring at the place where he used to read the newspaper every morning. That's when I saw at his desk drawer slightly ajar. Henry had always been meticulous. Every bill filed, every receipt dated. He once joked that if the IRS ever audited us, they'd get bored halfway through. So, when Daniel mentioned financial stress, I knew where I had to look. I opened the drawer, inside folders labeled, organized, calm, just like him. There, near the back, was a thin blue file marked Noah Transfers. My stomach dropped. The folder felt like a Pandora's box, heavy with truths I wasn't ready to face. I sat at the desk, heart pounding, and opened it. What I found was a timeline of betrayal, dressed in spreadsheets and bank receipts. Regular transfers from Henry's account to Noah's. $1,500, 0 cents here, $2,800, 0 cents there. One marked Sophie Medical Urgent for $10,000, 0 cents. Another simply labeled Rent Shortfall. 12 transfers in total, all within the last 24 months. Henry never told me. We had always agreed no secrets about money. That was a promise we made the day we merged our accounts and started saving for Noah's college fund. Then, I found the letter. Tucked between the last two statements was a sheet of yellow legal pad paper. Henry's handwriting was unmistakable, blocky, neat, deliberate. It was addressed to Noah, dated 3 weeks before Henry died. "Noah, this is the second time you've told your mother one thing and done another. So, I've kept quiet because I wanted to believe you. But if you lie about Sophia's expenses again, or used this money for anything you didn't tell me, I'll have no choice but to cut you off completely. I love you, but I won't let you take advantage of your mother's trust." I sat still, the letter trembling in my hand. Each word was a wound, proof that Henry had carried this burden alone, shielding me until the end. It was never sent, just tucked away. Maybe he never found the courage. Maybe he was waiting for the right moment. But now Henry was gone, and I was holding proof that our son had been lying to both of us. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I thought of Noah's voice over the phone, so casual, so detached. "Can we talk next week?" As if Henry's death was an inconvenience to his brunch plans. The memory ignited a fire in me, a resolve to uncover every lie he'd woven. I put everything back in the folder and locked it in the drawer. Not because I was ready to forgive, or even confront him, but because I needed time to think, to feel, to understand who my son had become, and whether I had the strength to finish what Henry had started. 3 weeks after Henry's funeral, Noah showed up at my front door. No call, no warning, just the sound of a car engine in the driveway and a soft knock at the door. When I opened it, he was standing there, in a jacket he hadn't bothered to button, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes darting everywhere but at mine. Behind him, Sophia sat in the passenger seat, engine running like she didn't intend to stay longer than absolutely necessary. "Mom," he said. I stepped aside wordlessly and let him in. He walked past me into the living room and sat down on the edge of the couch, barely touching the cushions like the whole apartment was too heavy to sit in. Henry's chair still sat untouched in the corner. I offered him coffee out of habit. He declined. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind that stretches into discomfort. Then he finally spoke. "Sophia thinks I should have come sooner," he said, rubbing his hands together. "She's probably right." Of course, she was the one who told him to come, It wasn't grief that brought him here, it was guilt, or worse, damage control. His presence felt like a performance, a hollow act to preserve his crumbling facade. I sat across from him, my cardigan pocket heavy with the phone that was already recording. I didn't trust myself to remember everything, and I didn't trust him not to twist it later. "Did you know your father called you the evening before he died?" I asked. His jaw tightened, a twitch, then a shrug. I had my phone on silent. "We were out for dinner. Sophia planned this surprise thing." He trailed off. Even he knew how hollow it sounded. "I meant to call him back," he said quickly. I didn't know it was serious." "You didn't say anything either." That line, that pivot, that attempt to make it my fault. I didn't react. I didn't give him what he wanted. He wasn't sick, Noah. I said he had a heart attack at the kitchen table 10 minutes after joking about the creamer. Noah looked away, pressing his palm to his forehead like I was the one burdening him. I leaned forward. "I found the transfers." His whole body stiffened. "What transfers?" he said too fast. "The ones from Dad's account to yours. Medical bills, rent, vacations." "Don't lie to me." He shook his head. "Those were loans, Mom. We were just going through a rough patch. Dad offered." I reached into my pocket and handed him the letter, Henry's letter. He read it in silence, then folded it up and said, "He didn't mean that." That's when I knew I wasn't talking to my son anymore. Not the boy who helped his dad build a treehouse. Not the teen who used to fall asleep during movie nights. So this man, this stranger, was someone who had chosen comfort over conscience, over and over again. And now he was here because the money might be slipping away. His denial was a final betrayal, sealing the distance between the boy I raised and the man before me. The next week, I didn't make coffee. I didn't water the plants, or check the mail, or scroll through the news like I normally did. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where Henry's heart had stopped and made a call. "Robert Klein, please," I told the receptionist. "Tell him it's Lila Harper and it's urgent." Robert had been Henry's attorney and friend for decades. He knew our family, our consulting firm holdings in every corner of our estate plan. When he picked up, I didn't explain. I just said, "I need to revise my will immediately." He didn't ask why, just gave me the earliest appointment. That afternoon I gathered everything. The blue folder with Noah's transfers, Henry's unsent letter, and the audio recording from Noah's visit. I placed them in a neat stack. Then I added one final thing. A handwritten letter to Emma, my 13-year-old granddaughter, to be opened on her 19th birthday. Because whatever else happened, she deserved to know the truth. Not the story Sophia would spin, not the silence Noah would wrap in guilt, the real truth. When I walked into Robert's office the next day, he took one look at my face and said, "This is about more than estate planning, isn't it?" I nodded and handed him the documents. "I want everything placed into a trust," I said. "Every asset. The apartment, the retirement accounts, Henry's stock portfolio, all of it, but not a single cent goes to Noah or Sophia." Robert raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He just opened his legal pad and started writing. We structured it carefully. The trust would belong to Emma, but she wouldn't receive full access until she turned 26. She could draw from it early only for education or basic housing. No luxury vehicles, no shopping sprees, no guilt-drun teenage bribes. And then I added one final clause. If Noah or Sophia challenged the trust, I told Robert, Emma gets full control immediately and they lose all visitation rights during the active years of the trust. It sounded harsh, maybe it was, but when a son chooses brunch over his father's funeral, when a spouse chooses manipulation over mourning, you stop worrying about appearances. You start protecting what matters. Robert read everything twice. He added a section for the letter I wrote to Emma, sealed in a manila envelope marked "For Emma on her 19th birthday." He included a transcript of Noah's visit and the documented pattern of financial deception. "This is airtight, Lila," he said. "No loopholes, no weak points, but it's going to hit them hard." I looked him in the eye and said, "That's the point, Robert, it's supposed to." We notarized the final draft within the hour. I walked out of his office, not with a sense of triumph, but with something sharper clarity. Henry had spent his final months shielding me from our son's betrayal, but he hadn't finished the job. So, I did. Not out of revenge, not even out of anger, but because if Noah had decided to treat his parents like a bottomless ATM, then it was time he found out the machine had a memory and a limit. 2 months passed without a word, not from Noah, not from Sophia, just silent, sharp, hollow, and somehow more honest than any apology they might have offered. Then, one Friday morning, I found an envelope in the mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name written in careful, looping 13-year-old handwriting. Inside was a small black flash drive. My heart dropped. This wasn't a birthday card or a digital school project. This was something else, something serious. I took it inside, closed the curtains, and plugged it into my laptop. What opened before me was a series of folders, each name by date. Inside were audio recordings, screenshots, even a few shaky videos taken from behind a bedroom door, Emma's bedroom. In one video, Sophia's voice was sharp and rapid-fire. She's manipulating everyone with that will, and if Emma sides with her, I swear to God, Nathan will pull her out of that school and homeschool her until she gets her head on straight. In another clip, Noah sounded tired, careless. Just let Mom run her game. We're not counting on the money right now anyway. If Emma plays along, she can still help us later. But the video that broke me was labeled Kitchen Night. It showed Sophia standing by the sink, whispering into her phone. If we push just a little harder, she'll crack. Say she's confused, get the lawyer to question her state of mind, then boom, the trust gets flagged. At the bottom of the final folder was a text file, just a few lines. Grandma, I didn't know who else to tell. I hear things when they think I'm asleep. I know they're lying. I believe you. I'm saving this in case you ever need help. ... I stared at those words longer than I'd stared at anything in my life. Longer than Henry's death certificate. Longer than the unset letter. My granddaughter, 13 years old, had seen what none of the adults wanted that. Her courage was a beacon, piercing the fog of betrayal with a clarity that shook me to my core. And she didn't just see it. She documented it. She stood up. For me, I made 2 backup copies of the flash drive. One went straight to Robert, the other into the locked safe in my bedroom. Then I sat at Henry's desk and wrote a new letter to Emma. For this one to be open only if anything ever happened to me before her 19th birthday, because I needed her to know I didn't just believe her, I trusted her. And that if she ever had to sit in front of a judge or a counselor or anyone who dared question her sanity, she wouldn't be alone. She'd have proof, because the only person in this family who had the courage to use her voice had earned the right to be protected by it. The mediation was held uptown in a beige office that tried too hard to feel friendly. Polite furniture, bottled water, neutral art, the kind of place meant to soothe people into thinking things wouldn't get ugly. But I came prepared for war. Noah and Sophia walked in first. Sophia was dressed like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. Flawless makeup, posture stiff. Noah looked older, tired, wrinkled suit, eyes that refused to meet mine. I didn't stand when they entered, didn't smile, just sat beside Robert with the folder in front of me, Emma's flash drive, the transfer records, Henry's letter, and the transcript of Noah's visit. Truth lined up neatly like bricks in a wall I wasn't going to let them climb over. A mediator began with introductions, her voice soft and measured. We're here today to discuss concerns over the estate transition and determine if any resolution is possible. Sophia jumped in almost eagerly. Lila's decisions were made under emotional duress, she said, her voice smooth but sharp. Now, we're concerned about her mental clarity during the drafting of this new trust. Grief can cloud judgment, and we believe she may have been influenced by unreliable sources. She was trying to paint me as unstable, unhinged. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. Her accusations were a desperate performance, unraveling under the weight of the truth I held. When she finally paused, I slid the folder across the table. This is why I said the mediator began reviewing the materials. Bank statements, handwritten notes, the transcript, the flash drive labeled simply evidence. I watched her expression change, page by page, line by line. When she looked up, her voice had lost its neutrality. "Mrs. Sophia," she said, "were you aware that your daughter recorded multiple statements referring to manipulation of this legal trust?" Sophia's face went pale. "She's 13, she snapped. "She doesn't understand context." But it was too late. The words were out. The evidence was in. The mediator turned to Noah. "Would you like to respond?" He didn't speak, just pressed his palms together and stared at the table like he was trying to disappear into it. I looked at him. This man who used to be my boy. "She tried to warn you," I said softly. Sophia exploded, slammed her hand on the table. "This is all because you can't handle being alone. You're punishing us because you're bitter." The mediator asked her to step out of the room to calm down. She stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots, and for the first time since Henry died, Noah finally looked at me. "I didn't know it got that bad," he whispered. "No," I said. "You didn't want to know." He nodded, ashamed. "I just wanted peace." "You don't get peace from silence," I said. "You get it from standing up when it matters." The mediator returned. She'd seen enough. "The trust is valid," she said. "It was formed with full capacity and overwhelming evidence. There is no basis for challenge." Noah left quietly. Sophia never came back in. And I sat there still and quiet, knowing the truth had finally done what I no longer needed to. It shut the door behind them. Emma turned 19 last Thursday. There were no balloons, no parties, just a quiet knock on my door shortly after noon. She stood there in jeans and a navy sweater, eyes wide but calm, holding the envelope I'd written her 6 years ago, still sealed. "I wanted to read it with you," she said. I nodded, too full to speak, and we sat together in Henry's old chair. She opened the letter slowly, carefully, like it was something sacred. She read every word. I watched her face shift from stillness to sorrow, then to something steadier, clarity. "Is all of this still true?" she asked, voice soft. "Every word," I said. She leaned in and hugged me tighter than she ever had before and whispered, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Her embrace was a lifeline, anchoring me to a future where truth could heal what lies had broken. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a short video. It was her standing before a judge. "I'd like to change my middle name," she said in the video, "to Lillian after my grandmother," and I couldn't hold back the tears. Later that day, at her college graduation ceremony, they called her full name aloud. Emma Lillian Whitfield. She looked right at me as she crossed the stage, smiled with pride, with understanding. Noah was there too, sitting alone in the back. He clapped, but didn't approach. Not me, not her. And in that silence, I understood something deeply. Legacy isn't money or property, it's truth. And Emma had chosen mine. She chose me. And that was enough. Her choice was my redemption, a testament to the strength we'd both found in the ashes of betrayal.